And the broadcast analyst for Stars Hockey, Daryl Reaugh, in studio for the open mic. Back-to-back Stars games this weekend, playoff-type intensity. How exhausted is Razor after going through that grinder of 2 games like that?
With tough travel, too, it was fun. This was a terrific weekend of, it was like a round robin of the best teams in the Western Conference, really. The Chicago Blackhawks, the St. Louis Blues played earlier in the week, and then the Stars played the Hawks, and then Stars played the St. Louis Blues, all for supremacy in the Central Division. So you don't get these little segments of time like that. We haven't seen this since the late 90s around here, so it was fun.
Stars win 1 and lose 1, take 3 points out of the weekend. So Dallas and St. Louis are now tied for first in the West. Stars hold the tiebreaker there. Chicago's 3 points back. Big picture, what did you learn from these games this weekend?
Once again, I think the fact that this team can hang with anybody. There have been moments within the season where you question some areas, and they had really fallen off in 2016. The first 3 months of the season, they just marauded their way through the league. But January, February was a very rugged month. But they seemed to be able to raise their game when they were playing either the big boys in the East or now these top teams in the West, and they're one of them. So. The other thing I think we learned is that they can outskate the Chicago Blackhawks and they can handle the physical play of the St. Louis Blues. And those are 2 major question marks heading into the season that the Stars have answered emphatically.
Of course, Sagan and Ben, 2 of the top young players in the league. They were in on that goal last night, late, that tied the game and sent it to overtime. They had been somewhat quiet recently coming into this weekend.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Kindly, isn't it? You think that they figured some things out this weekend, maybe, to the extent that you can in a 2-game stretch?
Yeah, I think so. They had a good weekend, let's put it that way. And so is Jason Spezza. Spezza was playing with Tyler Sagan. The power play, Jamie's been incredible on the power play. He scored a massive power play goal late in that game against St. Louis last night to get it to overtime. I think the spotlight shines so brightly on the 2 of them, and when they fall off a little bit, this team becomes sort of ordinary. And Jamie cares a lot and sometimes maybe cares too much and gets himself ground into a pulp because of that. Tyler at times vacillates on whether he's going to be a decent defensive player, a poor defensive player, an okay defensive player. We all know he can do things exotically offensively. So they moved him onto the wing. They went through this span where they didn't score goals for a little while, and by not scoring goals, this team seems to struggle a little bit to win hockey games. So it was nice to see the 2 of them get their act back together this weekend, and all of a sudden you get 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, and we talked about this on the ticket Friday morning. Lindy Ruff, juggling with some things at this point of the year. At what point does that become counterproductive, or is it just something that you have to do as a coach just to freshen things up from time to time?
We've certainly debated that throughout the year this season. It's been like a blender, from time to time, and usually it's when things aren't going that well. He'll grab things, lines, and chuck them into the blender, hit go, and see what comes out of it. And more times than not, what comes out of it is a victory or a rally or whatever. So it's worked. And with that, I think it's one of those things that he has over here that he doesn't want to go to all the time, but he understands it can work for them. And I think the players are immune to it now too, that they just think, well, this is probably going to happen if we fall behind by a couple of goals. I'll say this though, the one caveat, the thing I worry about is that the players from time to time end up always looking behind them and waiting for him to make that change rather than them figure it out on their own in front. And I think a mix of the 2 would be wonderful.
Nobody loves to talk about goaltending more than Razor. Lettinen strong against Chicago Friday night. Niemi not so strong against St. Louis on Saturday night. Can the Stars, I think it's the fundamental question, can the Stars make a deep run in the playoffs with this goaltending situation? Man,
that is the question, and I get it asked to me everywhere we go because people immediately talk about how fast, how deep, how offensive this team is, and then they whittle it down to which one of these guys is going to start come playoff time, and can either of the Finnish netminders get the job done? And we don't know that. I'll tell you this: the first 3 months of the season, both Niemi and Kari Lettinen were terrific. They were superb. And a big reason why they ran the way they did. And since then, they've both sprung a leak. They've been like tea bags from time to time individually. Last night was not a good night for Auntie Niemi. You mentioned Kari the night before, and Kari's been on a mini roll. I don't know how to answer the question. I really don't. I don't think the coaches, I don't think management knows exactly what they have there. There are hopes, and they've seen glimpses of it. But it's going to be tough, I think, to win come playoff time against really good teams in the Western Conference, unless without one of those two guys grabbing a hold of this thing.
You've been around here a long time. You were here calling games during the glory days in the 90s, early 2000s when they sold out the building every night. Then the dip. Is it starting to feel like it did back in those glory days again now?
That's a nice way of putting that, the dip. It was an extended little dip there, which was difficult. There were nights when there were, 3,500 people maybe in that building. And you look at it now, especially this weekend, and I actually like the games where the Red Wings are in here, the Blackhawks are in here, where there's that cacophony of sound, Mike, within the building that creates this nice bed for us in broadcast. And there's a competition between fans. The Stars fans, the fan base itself has expanded and grown and continues to do so. And our business side has done, I think, just a sensational job of making it a fun place to be, win or lose. And now the Stars seem to be winning consistently again on home ice. And everyone just seems to be chomping at an opportunity to beat the seventh man, if you will, come playoff time.
12 games to go, 7 at home. LA at home Tuesday, Tampa Thursday, Islanders Saturday. One more with the Blackhawks next week. What's going to determine whether this team ends up the number 1 seed, other than having the most points? I understand that, but what's the one thing you'll be looking for in terms of a style of play?
See, you stole my opportunity to just point that out. I was eager to get that one in. You know what? This will be the first time in almost a decade that the Stars are going to finish with triple digits in points. They haven't done that since '07. To answer your question, what they do or how they manage to finish first, I think it's important. I'd like to see them stick another banner up in the rafters at American Airlines Center for the Central Division. They're going to have their defensive game be a strong component. You know, they go wishy-washy with it from time to time. They can score consistently, but I think their defensive game is going to dictate whether they finish first or get into that playoff series of death, if you will, in the 2-3 in the Central Division.
Razor marking 20 years in the broadcast booth as color analyst for Dallas Stars hockey. As kind of a sincere, poignant thank you, we wanted to show some of the most memorable photos from Razor Ray throughout the years. This one we managed to dig up online.
That was between periods.
I won't ask you about that. And as we move on, Razor has just, graced us with some memorable, that was, I guess.
That's one of the corners of American Airlines Center.
There you go.
That's artsy from me. Give me a little props on that. That's artsy. Not a real. Oh
and
my!
There he is.
There's your broadcast team.
Strader and Razor getting
Man,
ready for yet another
highly paid.
Call.
We like to call ourselves national talent, regional heartthrobs.
Well, we're in all seriousness, and I've told you this many times. As a broadcaster, as an analyst for any sport, there's nobody better than Razor.
It's nice of you to say that. I don't know if anybody believes it after seeing that, but.
That makes you even more lovable. Daryl Reaugh from the Stars. Have fun the rest of the way.
I will. Good seeing you over there.